It's killing the lives of thousands of black kids.
The school system messed up.
Big time, failed him.
I want to take this opportunity to apologize to those students and families who may have been affected.
Dr. Sannalese, she's failing our children.
Educators consider him a ghost student.
Was action taken? Regardless, action was taken. More actions are to come.
It's worse than anything I've heard in the whole time that I've been governor.
What about that failure factory that Augusta Fell Savage became?
My name is Chris Pabst. I'm a reporter for Fox 45 News Project Baltimore, a team of journalists dedicated to investigating public education in the state of Maryland. Earlier this year, we had made a stunning discovery at one Baltimore City high school, Augusta Fell Savage in West Baltimore. We first learned about this school when a mother had reached out to us with concerns about when her son was going to graduate. Her story would launch a 6-month-long investigation for the truth about what was happening at that school. And what we found was alarming.
But this is just completely unacceptable. I mean, it's worse than anything I've heard in the whole time that I've been governor.
Serious allegations at a West Baltimore high school.
What about the kids? What about that failure factory that Augusta Fell Savage became?
A scheme to change grades and inflate enrollment numbers. First exposed by Project Baltimore, and 6 months later, confirmed by City School's own investigator.
That's astonishing, absolutely astonishing. What did they, this school needs to be shut down.
The internal investigation would show the problem was even worse than we first reported. Administrators at Augusta Fells had improperly changed grades and put students in classes that weren't even offered.
He didn't fail, the school failed him.
Project Baltimore first discovered grading irregularities at Augusta Fells in March 2021 when we spoke with Tiffany France. Her son passed just 3 classes in 4 years, but was still being promoted through the course levels. With a 0.13 grade point average, he ranked 62 out of 120. In his class.
Where do I turn? Where do I go? Who helps my son? What happens from here?
The report also found students were scheduled in classes that were not offered.
The ghost students were attending ghost classes. The classes didn't exist.
Ghost students, as they're known by educators, can be used to inflate enrollment numbers and increase the tax dollars a school receives, which on average is more than $15,000 per student. Project Baltimore in April spoke with a former student who told us he wasn't in the school because he was in jail.
From August up until December.
So from August to December of 2019, you were incarcerated?
Yes. As I can see in the transcripts, yeah, I'm basically a ghost student, but I didn't enroll in the classes or anything. I've been gone since 2017, buddy.
This man's name appeared on a list of 21 seniors enrolled, but not attending. And it turns out the problem is even bigger than what we first reported. City Schools identified 100 students with questionable enrollment status. When all ghost students are accounted for, it could be millions of dollars owed back to taxpayers. And the question remains, will anyone face criminal charges?
It certainly sounds like fraud. If somebody is keeping them on the rolls, that's fraudulent. That's theft of taxpayers' money. That's a crime.
While outside agencies continue their investigation, 4 people have been implicated in the scheme. 3 no longer work for City Schools, including the principal, Tracy Hicks, and the assistant principal, Joy Wasiga. The district has assured parents Augusta Fells is now under the guidance of an experienced and transformational principal, Kamala Carnes. But we found Carnes also has a questionable past.
No comment.
You don't even know what my questions are. How can you say no comment? Carnes has been the focus of 2 internal investigations by City Schools. One in 2017 as principal of Claremont Middle High, where she was found to have mismanaged a student's activity fund the other in 2019, when Project Baltimore reported on allegations of grade changing at Joseph C. Briscoe Academy. An internal investigation ultimately cleared Principal Carnes in the Briscoe case, but the report was inconclusive as to whether improper grade changing was happening at the school. And when the report came out, Carnes was already at Augusta Fells. After the stunning findings at Augusta Fells, Baltimore City School Board refused to speak with Project Baltimore, which we expected. It's been years since anyone from the school board has agreed to an interview with us. Instead, Baltimore City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises released a statement. The breach of trust by those former employees cannot be overstated. We are disappointed those adults would place their selfish motives above the well-being of students. But for 6 months prior to releasing its initial findings, the district tried to downplay what was happening at Augusta Fells. And the community was really reaching a breaking point.
The children in high school have elementary education. Enough is enough.
We're going to bring the revolution. Come hell or high water.
Somebody has to be accountable for that. Somebody has to put the checks and balances in place. And I don't think that Dr. Sonia Santelises has done a thorough job in vetting out any corruption that, directly affects our children.
This is much deeper than one person. We know that across the country, we have seen issues like this. The system has a plan for how we're going to work with our young people, and we're going to focus on that and focus on helping our young people and not using them for political fodder.
You cannot ask the school CEO no questions, but if you
I don't
can
care
send
who gets the question.
ma'am, that's the process. That's the
I'm
process.
asking the question. You can direct it to
And
whomever. I want to
most staff
understand
person-
who are we
You
asking
understand.
questions to?
You can make comments, but no questions to the school
Well, then what is the
CEO
purpose
or
of
city
hearing the
council.
question and answer period?
Okay, well,
Councilman,
that's the
that makes no
process.
sense. Just like the school board and all the administration makes no sense. You all should have your hands up and be screaming at this woman because she's failing our children.
Weeks after that hearing, we learned Augusta Fells was not the only school with ghost classes or ghost students. Another Baltimore City school, Claremont Middle High School, apparently had some of the same issues. And that's according to its former principal, who told us she had been watching our coverage of Augusta Fells. And for her, it seemed all too familiar.
I believe that it is happening at many schools.
Angel Lewis is currently suing Baltimore City Schools for wrongful termination. She claims North Avenue violated state whistleblower protection laws because when she got to Claremont in 2016, she began reporting what she found at the school under the previous principal, Kamala Carnes. You had 5 dead students enrolled at your school.
At the time that I inherited the school, yes. Several staff members, they actually went through the roster with me and let me know who had attended, who never attended, who was deceased. One of the teachers even mentioned to me that she attended the funeral.
When Lewis took over, she says 130 students were enrolled at the school, but only about 30 were attending. Ghost students, as they're called by educators, are only enrolled on paper.
Because I was the one who reported it and began to give attention to it, I then became the scapegoat. It's better to blame the new person.
City Schools declined an interview, but said in a statement, in part, it is important to understand that the allegations in any legal complaint are tested through an extensive process to determine whether they can be proved true. This is the original lawsuit Lewis filed against City Schools. It details how she issued complaints with the district that Claremont was cheating on the statewide assessment, graduating students that were not eligible to graduate, and had teachers not qualified to teach. Angel filed complaints stating the students were enrolled in classes that did not exist, saying Claremont's schedule did not include math or science courses, which are required to graduate. Did you have students at your school that got a high school diploma from Baltimore City Schools that didn't earn it?
I absolutely believe that. Prior to me being a principal, and quite frankly, unless something's changed, probably is still going on today.
This city has reached a point of crisis. The murders, the violence, the poverty, the crime, the corruption, all of it has taken a toll. And many people trace that back to a struggling public school system that has produced generations of students who tell us they simply didn't get the education they needed to succeed.
It's killing the lives of thousands of black kids, poor kids, across the board, black, white, or brown. The school system is the primary of all of this. It's not the crime, it's the schools. The crime is directly related to the lack of education and the ability of people to be able to work at a job that will sustain them and their family.
By the work that you have done, and certainly the work that the Inspector General's office has discovered, we have kids that are being counted and then not showing up for class. We have the ghost students. We're spending millions of dollars to educate kids that aren't there.
Maryland schools get about $15,000 per student enrolled. Baltimore City gets a little more, making it the 5th most funded large school system in America. But from this investigation, we analyzed state data, and we found a lot of that money is going to educate students who are labeled whereabouts unknown. In other words, they can't be found. But the school is still getting the money to educate that child. And it's a lot.
The fact that we're funding students whose whereabouts are unknown, and not a small number, thousands, and it adds up to tens of millions of dollars, that's something that needs to be looked at. It's a very simple solution. Instead of taking one tally at September 30th to see who's in school and who's out of school, they need to do it monthly. It's unacceptable for taxpayers' money to go for students that are knowingly not in the school system.
Resign, Dr. Santa-Lee. No education, no peace.
Calling for the resignation of the CEO, Dr. Sonia Santelises.
But if we're just throwing more money at the problem and we don't go back to the very basic root of all of these problems, we're not going to get anywhere. Someone else will be sitting here with you in 10, 15 years, and you'll be having the exact same conversation if we don't go back and fix the problem first.
As CEO, I want to take this opportunity to apologize to those students and families who may have been affected, but also to re-establish and restate our commitment to continue investigating this issue and to do everything in our power to ensure that our safeguards are in place to make sure students are on track to graduate.